Hello, today I will be explaining my HOSA group's research in order to show the engagement rate amongst the members in TAMU HOSA. Through our research, we discovered that Texas A&M HOSA was discovered in 2015, and despite there being numerous studies on how HOSAs overall positively influence students who are invested in a pre-professional track and the incentivization of challenging oneself through competitive events, there has not been a significant increase in the membership and engagement rate of the organization. Additionally, a research study by the Institute of Education Sciences saw how research studies have reportedly demonstrated their motivation to thrive and overcome adversities as they advance their career in college readiness, their civic engagement, and also in professional schools. Furthermore, Dr. Sandifer from Florida University noted how these results will also bring awareness to students who also did not know about HOSA prior to entering their health occupations programs as well. Therefore, both research studies show how HOSA has been very effective in establishing a foundation in students' professional careers. Thus, we urge the current members to consider the value that this organization brings to their career goals. We will now move on to our research methods, or in other words, our tasks. Our first task was to discover the perspectives of the TAMU HOSA members by surveying them about how they felt about their personal involvement in HOSA, as well as how receptive they felt about the organization and the officer team. An example of the survey can be shown here. Our second task was to interpret the outlook of the TAMU HOSA officer team by interviewing the officer team about their personal contribution and how they viewed what they could have contributed in order to improve the organization. This figure represents how we conducted our interviews, keeping confidentiality and ethics in mind. Our third task was assessing the TAMU HOSA's history through the alumni's experience by surveying the alumni members about their past experiences with HOSA and how that impacted their future. An example of the survey can be shown here. Our fourth task was to identify the expectations and benefits of international HOSA by finding the core values of HOSA and by seeing the effectiveness of HOSA by examining research articles. This image is an example of how the participants of HOSA students can influence their career decisions. Our fifth and final task was to compare and contrast the operations of organizations by examining how other HOSA chapters have been facilitating their engagement rate. One such example is the UTD HOSA chapter, and this image is an example of our examination. We will now move on to our analysis of research, or in other words, our results. The chart part of the member survey reveals how the members initially joined TAMU HOSA due to wanting more medical experience, as well as joining a competition-based organization when asked about their initial motivations for joining TAMU HOSA. The chart part of the member survey reveals how almost 60% of members attended most of the meetings, but in our recommendation report, we were able to further digress about how, despite the overwhelming amount of attendance, why members were facing a disconnect from the organization. In the officer interviews, we were able to recognize the officers' perspectives. Officer 1 emphasized how the officer believes that the officer team should create point requirements for the members in order to increase engagement. Officer 2 highlighted how the biggest change that needs to be made is officer preparation. After collecting our alumni survey responses, we were able to gather how many alumni felt that the organization had met their expectations and goals. However, in the report, we were able to digress into patterns that they noticed and that had influenced the low engagement rate of members over a period of time. The image shown is a visual representation of how we were able to identify HOSA's goals and expectations, and as the purpose slide was able to show how there have been positive and correlated effects related to competing in HOSA versus performance in professional careers, the report digresses on those studied effects. We examined UTD HOSA for our fifth and final task and the results show that in order to evaluate their chapter program, and we were able to examine how they've been able to engage their members while increasing their membership rate as well as through their mentorship program, which this image illustrates, their volunteering events, and much more. Lastly, here are the sources for our research report. Thank you.